Footage, it says, shows its aircraft bombing ISIL hideouts around the city of Mosul. The city was taken by Sunni rebels 2 weeks ago. And as the situation in Iraq deteriorates, more and more young Iraqis have flocked to recruitment centers to join the battle against ISIL. It's after a call for help from the country's most influential Shia cleric, who urged people to unite against the advance from Sunni fighters. Officials say more than 2 million have volunteered their services in just the past week.
We responded to the call by Al-Marjiyah to fight these rats who come from outside to destroy Iraq. We are all united. Iraq is united as Sunnis, Shia, Kurds, Christians and Sabians, all as one.
We responded to the call to wipe out ISIL and those who support them. This is a cause of a country, and it's not the cause of a Sunni or a Shia. We have to cooperate to terminate the rats.
Al Jazeera's Omar Saleh is live for us in Baghdad. And Omar, ISIL-led fighters have captured 2 more border crossings after they seized Al-Qa'im on the Syrian border. What more can you tell us?
Yes, we got those reports in the last hour or so that fighters from the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant did manage to overtake the border crossing of Al-Walid, that's with Syria, and the border crossing of Trabil, that's with Jordan. Now, there are conflicting reports as to whether their fighting took place or not. Some reports indicate that the army withdrew without a fight. Others said no, they did put a fight, but they lost the battle. So it's not clear what happened there, but both crossings under the control of ISIL fighters. It follows another border crossing earlier in the day of Al-Qa'im with Syria. So this gives ISIL fighters free movement in and out of Syria to Iraq. So this could be the route for their supplies and their fighters. This is a big blow for the Iraqi government.
In Iraq, as ISIL fighters continue to consolidate their gains in Anbar, we hear of a double bombing taking place in Ramadi.
Yes, that's true. There was a funeral for an Iraqi army officer who was killed 2 days ago in Al-Qa'im. Now, today there was a funeral southeast of Ramadi. A car bomb exploded at the site. Then a suicide bomber walked in between the crowds. He detonated his charge. The initial death toll we have is 10 people killed and 22 injured. We think the number of casualties will rise.
Omar Saleh in Baghdad. Well, 1,000 families have taken shelter in a refugee camp in the eastern city of Qanaqin after fleeing fighting between Iraqi forces and Sunni fighters. Many headed there from Bakuba, northeast of Baghdad, which has seen fierce fighting in recent days. Many more people have taken refuge in the Al-Khazar refugee camp just outside Mosul, which is one of the cities under ISIL control. Al Jazeera's Nasser Al-Bedri is there.
Well, as you can see behind me here in the picture, there are thousands of Iraqi families, so over 450 tents which have been erected here by the United Nations. Very difficult conditions for the refugees who came from Mosul, came from Tikrit. I spoke to some of them who came from Tal Afar and from many other Iraqi cities, actually, which are under the control of the Sunni armed groups. As I said to you, very difficult conditions. Some of them actually hope at some stage to cross into Kurdish areas, but they need technically they need a Kurdish citizen to sponsor them for them to cross.
Well, Iran's supreme leader has rejected possible intervention in Iraq by the US or other outside powers. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei accused Washington of trying to manipulate Iraqi sectarian differences to retake control of the country. He added that Iraqis themselves have the power to end violence in their country. Well, on a trip to Egypt, the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said the U.S. is not responsible for what's happening in Iraq, but he said it will offer help to an Iraqi government that pursues unity.
We will help Iraqis to complete this transition if they choose it. If they want, they have an opportunity to choose leadership that can represent all of Iraq, a unity government that brings people together and focus on ISIL. And I am convinced that they will do so, not just with our help, but with the help of almost every country in the region, as well as others in the world, who will always stand up against the tyranny of this kind of terrorist activity.